2003 marked an important milestone for Korean Americans. 100 years of Korean immigration to the United States. A century that saw Korean field hands, independence fighters, war orphans, scholars, scientists, and entrepreneurs arriving in the United States to pursue their dreams and aspirations for a new future while cherishing their Korean heritage. In their new homeland, Korean Americans altered and enriched the landscape of cities, schools, industries, and communities. On January 3rd, 1903, the SS Gaelic arrived in Honolulu Harbor carrying the first 102 Korean American immigrants. Most became laborers on Hawaiian sugar plantations, a famously difficult livelihood. But in the next 3 years, more than 7,000 Koreans left their strife-torn country to pursue new opportunities in the United States. By 1910, Korea was officially annexed by Japan, and Korean immigration slowed to a trickle. Living in a foreign land that had yet to accept them, but cut off from a home effectively erased, Korean Americans keenly felt the loss of their motherland. During this time, the United States provided a beacon of hope for leaders of the Korean independence movement, such as Philip Jason, Dosan An Chang-ho, and Syngman Rhee.
Around that time, Syngman Rhee and An Chang-ho, those, all the famous patriots, they are the members of church and they are the community leaders.
It really was kind of a tragic era to think that you were Koreans and you had no country, that someone else had come in and taken over. And as I recall, our whole life was for the independence of Korea.
Every Korean immigrant, from those leading hard-scrabble lives to those of more successful means, gathered together and devoted significant parts of their income to the cause of freeing Korea.
I think the story goes that when my father left in 1919, he took with him $27,000, which the Koreans had saved penny by penny, and it started the provisional government in Shanghai.
While giving so much to their homeland, Korean Americans also worked diligently against the barriers of racial discrimination to become successful Americans.
Papa, why was I born a damn Korean and not white? And he told me something I never forgot. He said, son, you ought to thank God that you're born as a free American. You can follow your Olympic dreams and being a doctor of medicine because you're free. But if you don't show pride in your ancestral background, how do you expect your classmates to respect you?
Civil rights movement of the 1950s and the 60s enabled the U.S. Congress to pass 1965 Immigration Act. I think that's a very important historical moment for Korean American community. Without that immigration reform, the Korean American community would have remained quite small. And they came here to realize their American dreams. And the American dream was to economically successful and also educate their children and sending them to top schools in the United States. So those are two primary goals for many Korean immigrants who came after 1965.
In major U.S. cities such as Los Angeles, San Francisco, Chicago, New York, Koreatowns grew into important centers of business and community for the newer immigrants. These Koreatowns helped ease the language and cultural barriers faced by new immigrants and assisted their transition into American life.
when I came to the United States, I was associated with the educated people. So when I first started this business, I really had the first time real contact with the American working people. And I couldn't understand the English very well, even though I thought my English was okay. And I never sold anything. And we had some contract with the Ford Motor Company and General Motors. So it's kind of a little bit awkward for engineering background scientists going to sales calls. But you're determined to succeed. So I made sales calls, and I was kind of feel like I'm begging, sales calls. But I did okay. Now I'm a really great salesman. Trust me, I can sell anything to you.
Dry cleaners, liquor stores, garment businesses, nail salons, delis, and small groceries. For the most part, these small businesses were the lifeblood of a parallel Korean immigrant economy for those nurturing the American dream. Following the example of earlier waves of American immigrants, Korean families worked extraordinarily hard and saved prodigiously to provide their children with better opportunity. The success of both parents and children transformed a classic immigrant tale into a much-repeated model minority myth.
Work, work, work. Nothing but work. That's how they live their entire 365 days a year. And that's how they saved money to buy a house, send their kids to top schools, top private schools, which cost a lot of money. And all of a sudden, the major thing happened on April 29th, 1992.
In April 1992, 4 not guilty verdicts in the Rodney King trial, a case not much followed by Korean Americans, created sparks for a fire that literally and symbolically burned through Los Angeles in the veneer of racial harmony. Caught in the seething path of African American rage, Korean Americans tragically discovered they were also symbols of mainstream prejudice and oppression. Their families and livelihoods intertwined with the fate of a larger American society. The aftermath of the riots was devastating and heartbreaking, and for some fomented an insurmountable sense of fear and hatred. Incredibly, for most of the Korean American community, the aftermath of the riots became a call for rebuilding the American dream, this time with an understanding of the larger mainstream society, the needs and aspirations of other minority communities, and a need for a stronger Korean American political and social identity.
I think at that time what we all realized, we meaning people who were active in the Korean American community, what we realized was that we were not very powerful, that despite the fact that there were many of us here in numbers and many of us had nice jobs, we had businesses, our Koreatown was flourishing, that in reality, we did not have political power or a voice that people in power were listening to or cared about.
And not just the Korean community, but here in the city and the county of Los Angeles, it's important for politicians and other electeds to understand that there are people watching what they're doing to Korean Americans. We're no longer going to be taken for granted. You can't just come into our community and have a fundraiser and have that photo op and then leave. We want to know what you're going to come back and do for our community.
We tend to put too much emphasis on 우리, it implies some kind of enclosure, our own sort of a cocoon. We have to bust out of that because in this country, this is a country made up of a lot of people from other parts of the world, and we better learn how to live in harmony with these people, with other people other than the Koreans.
Korean American basically means that you have the privilege of living and understanding and being exposed to two very unique and special cultures. And to be able to find a balance between those two cultures
to figure out what your life should look like and how you should live that life, I think is, it's a big challenge. It's a lot of pressure as well. But I think that it's a very, very, very special kind of title to have. And I don't know that a lot of people recognize that.
Another thing we would hope to accomplish, aside from celebration and visibility, would be active connection of Koreans, especially emerging leaders, 1.5, second generation Koreans, to the mainstream of American life.
But we are here in the United States with its own history and issues. And success of ourselves is not going to do it. What I've learned is that there's so much need in the community.
Eventually, our future is, Korean American future is in this country. So we had to do something to make a more permanent our stay here. We're not going back. So we had to make a relationship with the native people.
Someday, 50 years, maybe 60 years, 100 years, will be different. In that case, so we are very strong preparation. We are relating to the Hispanic community and interracial community.
I think you can work for the community without being in the community. For instance, if you happen to work for a major corporation or for government, you are doing your job and you're doing it well. It may be that there is an issue affecting the Korean American community, and that's when you get involved.
I think the challenge is for them to find ways to retain the cultural heritage and the language and sort of the unique characteristics of the Korean community so that we can keep the identity of our community and our culture overall alive. I think that that's going to be a big challenge.
The increasing diversity of the community calls upon Korean Americans in the future to both actively cultivate their heritage and engage their communities.
My name is Stefan Her. I'm a doctor.
My name is Hannah Lim. I'm a teacher.
My name is Kyu Kim. I'm a motion graphic designer.
Connie Chung, pharmacist.
Tim Kim, police officer.
Jinoo Yu, CPA.
Lisa Kim, Children's Center Coordinator.
I'm a reporter.
I'm an entrepreneur.
I'm a photographer.
I'm a graphic designer.
I'm a dentist.
Songwriter.
I'm a human resources manager.
Just try to be a good Korean American. Broaden your horizon. Reach out. And we are capable of doing that.
So never shy away from your dream, no matter how difficult it is. And to say your success in life is not how many servants you have, but how many people you serve.
I mean, we only lived for one thing, that was for the independence of Korea. You don't have to do that today. I think the main issue for young people today is remember their heritage. Be good Americans, but don't forget your heritage.